Those of us that now insist that we're no longer being oppressed and that it's ourselves that are now our worst enemies are in fact gullible, naive, and are ignorant of a true reality. The gullible, naive, and ignorant ones are always the easiest ones to be manipulated to think in ways that benefits all oppressors. The truth is, the oppression of Black people by white oppressive forces now strives and operates like a well-oiled machine. Our ignorance of this fact is the oppressor's greatest power over us. This is why those of us who know the truth must teach African proverb. In order to continue the long-term oppression of a group of people, it's necessary to develop covert, sophisticated systems for continuing their long-term oppression. Because whenever people are oppressed for long periods, their collective aggressions towards their oppressors will continue to grow until acts of massive rebellion becomes inevitable. The oppressed always eventually rebels against their oppressors. This is an inherent response within the collective human psyche whenever people are oppressed for long periods. There are two ways to prevent this inherent response. First, by manipulating the oppressed to perceive themselves as being their own worst enemies. This divides the oppressed and shifts their collective aggressions away from their oppressors and redirects it towards them. Secondly, it's by developing methods for continuing the oppression of the oppressed that the oppressed don't recognize. When the oppressed have been misled to perceive themselves as being their own worst enemies, and when the oppressed no longer recognize how they are still being continually oppressed, they won't resist their oppression, and they can then be ruled over forever. This is the hidden true reality that now confronts Black people living under white dominance. Those of us that now insist that we're no longer being oppressed and that it's ourselves that are now our own worst enemies are in fact gullible, naive, and ignorant of their own ignorance. The gullible, naive, and ignorant among us are always the easiest victim of the white oppressors' fraudulent manipulating programs that manipulates us to think in ways that benefits themselves. Because Black people are in fact still being oppressed. Although most Black people no longer experience the type of overt, blatant, white oppressive tactics as our grandparents had experienced it, we are, however, still being oppressed by white oppressive forces. When the past blatant white racist oppressive tactics deployed against our ancestors in the past became no longer morally acceptable with the changing times and resulted in unprecedented unified Black protests, white oppressive forces secretly implemented a more stealthy designed system for subjugating and oppressing the Black population. More covert methods for maintaining their white dominance that's much more socially acceptable and better suited for the changing times. When those blatant racist oppressive tactics used in the past for maintaining white social dominance over the Black population had ran their course, thus became morally and socially unacceptable with the changing times, and resulted in unprecedented unified Black protests, white oppressive forces did not abandon those practices of oppressing Black people. They merely instead developed more covert and more sophisticated methods for doing so. And Black people, we will never liberate ourselves using outdated foot march strategies against these modern oppressive tactics that are presently being deployed against us. We must elevate our liberation tactics to match these sophisticated oppressive tactics that are presently being deployed against us. Unlike the white racist subjugation tactics of the past that Black people could easily recognize and therefore develop counter strategies against, today's current methods are so sophisticated and so covert that they're not easily recognized nor are they easily comprehended by most of their Black victims. These modern methods allows white oppressive forces to continue their oppression of black people without any black retribution nor any black resistance. Case, point, and proof. Remember back in the day when we had many black celebrities, such as famous entertainers like Harry Belafonte, Ossie Davis, and famous athletes like Muhammad Ali and Jim Brown that used their national fame to spotlight the continued oppression of the black masses? Today, this rarely happens anymore, and it's by deliberate design. Nowadays, athletes are immediately assigned to sport agents, and entertainers are assigned to talent agencies. These sport agents and talent agencies strongly encourages and sometimes contractually obligate black entertainers and black athletes to not speak out publicly in behalf of the black masses. It's not blatantly worded that they should not speak in behalf of the black masses. They're told to avoid social and racial issues because doing so makes them more marketable to the white masses. Black athletes can then gain more endorsement deals, and black actors can then gain more acting opportunity roles. What it literally equates to is that not speaking up in behalf of the black masses regarding black issues, this results in the black entertainers and athletes potentially gaining more millions of dollars. Speaking up in regards to black issues result in the loss of revenues. There's even more. Many African Americans have asked the questions of why is it that we no longer have national leaders like Dr. King and Malcolm X? Critically think, are we really expected to believe that there are no longer among the over 55 million African Americans not one single individual that possessed the ability and qualification to stand upon a national platform and articulate our cause and our struggles? Of course not. That's not true. There are many of us. Here's what's actually happening. The government has a historical incentive for not wanting to have another outspoken African American leader reaching to the level of influence and prominence reached by Dr. King. They deemed Dr. King as a threat to our national interests. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover said that Dr. King had become too influential, therefore too powerful, and labeled him as being the most dangerous Negro to the future of the nation. Dr. King was shortly therefore assassinated after a declaration was made. White oppressive forces realized then that it was by providing a national media platform to Dr. King and Malcolm X that their popularity and followers grew. They therefore now prevent the rise of a new black leader by denying a national media platform from those among us that had the potential of becoming a national black leader, and they provide it only to their black puppet leaders. They're black puppet leaders that actually secretly works in behalf of the white establishment while merely giving the illusion that they're working on behalf of the black population. This fact provides clarity to the words of FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover when he said that the only way we'll have another black national leader, that he called a messiah figure, would be only if the government created one. Therefore, nowadays, the white establishment literally treats those black people with true revolutionary mindsets like a gardener treats weeds within a garden. A gardener does not want weeds spreading through his garden, so he denies it of water and fertilizer. Likewise, the white establishment doesn't want the ideology of black revolutionary mindsets spreading throughout their garden of white supremacy. So they deny those of us who think this way from receiving a national media platform. This prevents it from spreading. Today, black leaders are selected and controlled by the white ruling elites. They do so by controlling who they allow to speak before a national platform within their white controlled media. If these black people cannot cooperate and do the bidding of the white ruling elites, they won't be given any airtime within the white national media. The elites found that giving media attention to those black people who speaks truth to power is detriment to the white establishment. In reality, there are still many black people among our ranks with the capability of Malcolm and Martin. However, these types of black people are no longer given any media attention because the white establishment don't want their ideologies to spread among the black masses, thus disrupting their system of white supremacy. They falsely justify doing this by labeling the ideology of black liberation as being anti-white militant rhetoric. They claim that the ideology breeds hatred and dissent against the white society. They therefore treat the ideology of true black liberation literally as if it were weed within a garden. Here's another relevant fact. Have you ever noticed that on those televised Black Summit shows that they always place people like black rappers like T.I. and Killer Mike and many others that are underqualified to discuss the plight and condition of black America? Those are the people they put on their panels. It's actually a suppression tactic that prevents black liberation. White oppressive forces controls who sit upon these televised panels by only financially sponsoring or televising shows with black speakers that they approve of. They even have a list of black people that are banned from being given a national platform within the white controlled media. They then either invite or approve of the invitations of black entertainers and also like self-loathing blacks like Candace Owens to speak on these televised panels and summits. This limits the spectrum of dialogue to merely opinions, but allows for a lively debate, but with a low-level spectrum of thinking. It's how white oppressive forces ensure that black liberating dialogue remains dumbed down and non-productive. There's more. The white media's unrelenting negative depictions of black people that amplifies the negative to the point that it distorts our reality is much more than just biased media reporting. It is actually a black racially demoralizing divide and rule psychological warfare campaign. Demoralized divide and rule is a method of maintaining control over a targeted population through constant and unrelenting demoralization in order to create self-hatred and division between the targeted population. This is what's being done to the black population by white propagandists. This psychological warfare program is deployed like a massive media marketing campaign that constantly subjects the black population to only receiving the fraudulent worst narratives about ourselves. Within this psychological warfare system, fraudulent, black, racially demoralizing propaganda is being pumped unrelentingly into the unsuspecting minds of the black population without being challenged nor counterbalanced by an equal amount of black positive, racially affirming information. Its weapon is the message that it carries and the way that it negatively affects the black population in terms of our behavior and our unity. Its constant daily assault of negative depiction of black people are designed to corrupt our sense of black racial unity and cohesion. It molds a character of self-hatred, and it creates self-doubt, self-loathing, and division among our ranks that weakens us as a people. It also covertly conditions many black people to believe that we are inherently inferior and that we therefore need whites to govern over our lives. This is the truth of our plight and condition. It manipulates us to believe that we are our own worst enemies, and it insinuates that black people should admire, respect, and trust only whites. Its ultimate objective is to demoralize the black population to such an extent that we therefore believe that we need whites to govern over our lives, and we abandon all hopes of ever liberating ourselves. It's also designed to instill the myth of white racial superiority into our subconscious minds, which makes us more compliant, with white dominance over our lives. In fact, doing so not makes us only more compliant with white dominance over our lives. In many cases, it makes us even prefer it. This is the truth of our plight and condition. This psychological warfare is what shifts the Black collective aggressions away from the white society and redirect it against ourselves. It's why now more Black people speak negatively of ourselves and we speak favorably of the white society. The minds of targeted populations are easily to manipulate if they don't see what's happening to them. This also attacks the core foundation of what bonds us as a people, and we can then be ruled over forever. This system is extremely effective because when Black people are constantly presented negative propaganda about ourselves from trusted white media sources, it can be very difficult to resist its implied propaganda programming. They created a sophisticated system of racism for controlling us. And then they distract and dumb down our minds by having us believe in a Willie Lynch myth. Because by keeping our understandings flawed, then all of our remedies that stem from those misunderstandings will also be flawed. I'm telling you the truth. It's time to wake up to our reality. It's time to elevate our minds from believing in things that insults our intelligence. We are being controlled through the white society's monopoly over information and media images that are fed into our minds. Through their monopoly over what's fed into our minds, they shape our minds in ways that are against our own interests and in ways that serve and protect the system of white supremacy. Wake up to our reality. One love and peace.